Okay, welcome back to session 2. We're at session 2 already.
Wow.
Where did that go?
Yeah, there I am. There you are.
Yes.
Could I just ask, just before we begin anything properly, could anybody who's in the comments, could you just indicate that we're still working?
There's about a 20-second delay, so 30-second delay, so we're just waiting for YouTube to catch up at the moment.
Okay. Well, in which case, should we introduce people? Because that's, yeah. So we don't need to introduce myself or Dan Maybe or Barbara Saul, because we've already done that, haven't we? But yes, Tim Nash is saying it's working, but you needed to refresh. So we'll make that point at the next one. We do need, however, to introduce our very important special guest, because we're joined today by Marieke van der Rakt. And I remember last time I said that, I was quite pleased with myself because I got it right. Did I get it right the second time?
Well, I think you said it wonderfully. Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Yay. Okay. My life is complete. I'm going to hang up my socks and go and have a lie down. Marieke's, you'd probably be living under a rock if you didn't know about the organisation which Marieke works for. She is, of course, I'm going to say CEO. Marieke, I'm sorry if that's wrong, but I'm pretty sure you are the CEO.
I'm the CEO.
Yeah. The CEO of Yoast, which is, a formidable SEO solution for WordPress. She's come on to talk to us today about SEO, but about a bunch of other things. So rather than me blather on about that, I'll let Dan explain what we're talking about today.
Yes, so as we mentioned at the start of the event, every individual that's coming on is representing a for good organisation, as well as obviously being an expert in their field and being able to give talks on that particular subject. And in this session, Marieke is going to be talking about the Yoast Diversity Fund and the Yoast Care Fund. So not just one, but two for good entities here. So we're just going to dedicate an initial 5-10 minutes around that, and Marieke's going to give us a bit of detail across what it's all about. And then following that, we're then going to be hearing about SEO. So we're going to duck out. I'm going to bring up some slides and allow you to take the floor. So
before we duck out, may I make a plea? If anybody has a question, please add it into the comments at the moment you think of it, because I know how easy it is to come up with a question and then think, oh, I'll ask that at the end, and then of course you just forget to do it. So just pop your comment in, or question I should say, the second you think of it. Don't be afraid.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, right, Marieke, we are going to show your slides now. I appreciate you.
And they're shown now, and now you can't hear me anymore, right? About the diversity. I want to share some information about the diversity fund. So why do we have this fund? Why is this so important? Well, diversity matters. Diversity is important, including people from different backgrounds. That's not only the right thing to do, but actually leads to better results. Having people from different backgrounds, different opinions, different perspectives in a room together makes for better ideas, better products, better conferences. So it's a really important thing to be aware of, that diversity is something that's not only a good thing because we think everybody deserves a fair chance in society or whenever, it's also leading to better results. And I have science backing me up in that one. But what can we do? How do you make a community like WordPress or any other tech community? How do you make sure that these kinds of communities are more inclusive or more diverse? That's a really hard thing. And it's important to realize that we cannot change society. Lots of the origins of inequality or lack of diversity exist because they lie within our culture. And we cannot change society. So, for example, we cannot force men and women to have equal opportunities in the world, because a lot of the things that are causing these differences are because of our society, and society does not treat everyone equal. And I really hope that this will change over time, and I am willing to do an effort, but this will take some time. And until and if things truly change, there are some important things we can do right now, like today. And like, I think the most important thing is that we need strong role models. The default type of person presenting at a tech conference today is that of a white man. And we need different defaults. We need different types. The more women we see speaking at the tech conferences, the more we get used to having a woman on stage. And other women may feel inspired because they see someone that looks like them talking on stage. So that's why I believe in bringing women on stage. And other women will see them as well, recognize themselves, maybe think, oh, I can do this even better than they are, and try to get on stage as well. And I think WordPress has done so wonderfully already. I had a hard time finding statistics, but what I did find was really inspiring. So look at these stats. In 2012, only 19% of the speakers on a WordCamp was a woman. But in 2017, it was already 30%. And I know that a lot of conferences now have a 50-50 rate. So WordPress is doing great already, at least in the women department. But Yoast Diversity wants to improve this. The fund wants to improve it even further, make it even more awesome. And of course, I know women aren't the only group that is underrepresented. There are a lot of other groups that aren't presented on stage. So women aren't the only ones who are able to apply. Every person of a traditionally underrepresented group in the tech community can apply. And you have to be accepted as a speaker to the conference, because the Diversity Fund is to raise role models. So you have to be on stage. We want the conference to be a non-commercial event, so like Meetup or WordCamp. It could also be another open source community like Magento or JavaScript or Java 3. But the majority of the people who had Yoast Diversity Fund money from the Yoast Diversity Fund spoke at a WordCamp and for other non-profit events. So what we do is we pay the expenses that a person should make to get to a WordCamp. So maybe the plane ticket or the hotel. And I think we should make sure that all barriers to a person of not going to speak on that event should be taken away. And that's what the Yoast Diversity Fund is for. So we've been having the Yoast Diversity Fund for over a year and a half. And recently we also got to the Care Fund. So next to the Yoast Diversity Fund, we have the Yoast Care Fund. And Care actually stands for Community Appreciation Reward. And we think that, well, the WordPress community, or even better, our WordPress community, thousands of volunteers worldwide, and together we write the code and tests, and we translate the software, and we organize these awesome events. But many of these volunteers work on WordPress in their free time, or they're self-employed. And this means they're really making WordPress better out of the goodness of their hearts and nothing else. Some of them even work on WordPress so much that they have hardly any time to make a decent income. And well, I can't hire them all. We can't hire all these people because that wouldn't make sense. But we wanted to do something to value these people. So we decided we want to value people who contribute to WordPress, and we want to give them a gift. So we're handing out $500 for everyone who gets the Yoast Care. But we also want to let them shine. We want to celebrate them. So that's why we also do interviews on our blog and make other people aware of what these people are doing. So how's that going? Well, we launched the Yoast Care Fund at the beginning of September 2019, and we received 17 nominations for the Yoast Care Fund. And a lot of people nominated the same person. So there are a few of us who are really popular. And we've already introduced some of them. So we did an interview with them, and we've posted that on our blog post. And these people, of course, also got their $500 is it, I guess, reward and like a certificate in order to celebrate what they are doing. So you can see how we've been rewarded ever since. The nice thing about this, I think, is that we let the people who nominate a person do an interview with the people that receives it. So you get this nice conversation about their work for WordPress. And we have people from over 9 countries. Well, some countries are really big. Yeah, so that's going great. And we would like to get even more people with the Yoast Care Fund. So if you want to find out more about our Yoast Diversity Fund or our Yoast Care Fund, you can check out our website, and we have all the things you need to know in order to apply for one diversity fund. You can apply for yourselves. In the Yoast Care Fund, you can nominate someone else. So it's like a present you can give. Maybe it's something you can give over Christmas. So this is what I wanted to tell you about the Yoast Diversity Fund and the Yoast Care Fund. So now I'm...
Excellent.
Yeah, there you are.
Yes, I appreciate it. Sorry, you can't see us at the moment, but thank you so much for that. Some great comments in the chat regarding this. Pictionary, it's very grateful for the sponsorship I got from Yoast. So we've got individuals in the chat right now that have benefited.
That's great.
Yes, yeah. So thank you. Really appreciate Yoast as a company enabling this and bringing this to the community, both through the Diversity Fund and the Care Fund. It's the list of individuals on that Care Fund, the recipients, wonderful people. It's a fantastic initiative.
Thank you. Yeah, we think so too. We think it's a really positive thing to bring out. So it's always nice to celebrate someone. Yeah,
absolutely. Excellent. Okay, right. Well, now we are going to introduce your talk. I'm not going to take up too much time, but I wanted to repeat what Nathan mentioned at the start. If you have any questions at all throughout the talk, feel free to drop them in the chat as you think of them, and we'll make sure we pick up on them at the end of the talk. So for now, I'm going to hand you back. Marieke, do you need to change your slides?
No.
Are you keeping...
I'll just take. Yeah, now it's the new one.
Yes, fantastic.
That's it. We see it. Yeah, all good.
Yes, we can see that. So we are now hearing the talk, improving your SEO by improving your site structure. So
yes.
Thank you very much.
So hello, everyone. Now we're going to do a whole different talk. We're going to talk about site structure. And maybe I can give you some tips on how to improve your rankings or your SEO by improving your site structure. So a little bit about me. My name is Marieke van Rakt. I was already lovely introduced. I'm the CEO of Yoast. Before I was working at Yoast, I used to work at a university. I've done a lot of teaching at different universities, actually. And I'm also the founder of Yoast Academy, our online platform, online courses platform. And at Yoast, I do a lot of company culture and fun things, but I also do... my expertise is on SEO copywriting and on site structure. So I do a lot of blogging as well, and some speaking about SEO at different conferences, WordCamps, and other things. So what's this talk going to be about? Well, first I want to talk a little bit about why site structure is important for SEO. And then I want to give you some tips on how to improve your site structure. And I think the first thing you need to do is to start thinking about site structure. I think a lot of people forget that that's important. And then we're going to talk about how to incorporate or to improve your site structure and give some practical tips on how to do that. And then finally, I'm going to talk about how to maintain site structure. I know all of you will have a website and it will get older every day. And as a website grows and gets older, you'll need some maintenance, because otherwise you'll just, it will go downhill if you don't do any maintenance. So why is site structure important? And I always, when I try to make people understand the importance of site structure, I always start with a little story. So once upon a time, there was this girl. Her name was Alice. This is Alice. And Alice would get up every morning and she would sit down at this beautiful old desk. And on this desk is this beautiful old-fashioned typewriter. And Alice would sit down, take a piece of paper, put it on her machine, and start to write the story. And every day, Alice would write a new story. And whenever she's finished, she would pull the piece of paper out of the machine and she would read her story. And then she would throw the story somewhere on the floor or on her desk. So, after a year of writing, there will be 365 sheets of paper on the floor. After 3 years of writing, she will have more than 1,000. And Alice never filed anything and she never structured anything. So what will happen? Well, everything will get lost. All these beautiful written stories will get lost. Alice won't be able to find any of them anymore because there's just too many. Alice remembers that she wrote a beautiful story about a bumblebee like a year ago, but she doesn't know where it is. And if Alice can find her stories, her mother, coming in every now and then, checking a room, won't be able to find anything anymore in her room. And you know what? It's not that different on your website. If you do not structure your website neatly, your visitors will get lost. Your stories will get lost. And, well, Google will get lost. So, the importance of site structure. You all have that enormous desk in a room with 1,000 sheets of paper in your head, and you get that something needs to be done. So let's take a step back and look at the 2 reasons why site structure is important. And the first reason, and this is the most important one, is because of the user. The structure of your website is important for your visitor. If your site structure is clear, people will more easily find what they are looking for on your website. If Alice, the girl from my story, would have created nice piles of those type stories on the floor, if she was to order them by similar topics and put little post-its on them, it would be more easy to find her stories back. She would have a little pile with stories about bumblebees, little stories about science and about feminism. She had a really broad scala of stories she was writing about. And then it would be easy to find her stories back. So site structure, most importantly, is important for the user, because if a site is well structured, visitors will more easily find what they're looking for. What does site structure have to do with SEO? Well, the way your site's structured will give Google important clues about where to find the most important content. Your site structure determines whether or not a search engine can understand what your site is about and what you're selling. And in order to really understand this, you need to know a little bit about how Google works. So this will be like really obvious, and I'm sorry, you're just going to mute me for like the next couple of minutes. So, but what does Google do? Search engines like Google follow links. Google consists of a crawler. They also call it a spider or a bot. They have a lot of different names for the same thing. It consists of an index and an algorithm. So Google saves everything, the entire web, in a really large database, which is called the index. But how does Google even know of the existence of websites? So in the old days, you had to tell search engines about the existence of your website. You had to apply to get found in the search engine. Google was actually the first search engines that used these crawlers or spiders or bots to get that information. So how does that work? Well, the little spider follows links. It follows links from one side to the other. And for the little spider or Google to know about the existence of a website, there has to be at least one link pointing towards that new website. And then if Google will find this link to that specific page, it will follow it to the new website. And then Google will know about the existence of the website. And Google will think, let's put this information in my index, in my really large database. And we'll save all the content and the headings and the links. And then it will continue crawling and following links. And whenever something changes, Google will want to save these changes in the index. So Google will come along every now and then. On some pages, Google comes around really, really often. And these will be the pages with lots of visitors, pages in which things change very often. But on other pages, Google spiders and bot will not appear so very often. So your internal linking or your linking structure allows Google to crawl through your website and to save all the content in the index. So your page is in the index. Now it will just magically show up in the search engines, right? Well, sort of. Whenever you search for a term, your page isn't the only page on the web that's relevant for that specific term. Often there are millions of others. So there's quite a lot of competition for that place in the search engine result pages. Searching for WordPress SEO will result in about 22 million results. And Google determines which website is most relevant. And they are doing a great job at that. Well, that's where the algorithm thingy comes in. So Google has this secret algorithm thingy that determines which pages will pop up highest and what pages will not. So I've explained a bit on how Google works, and this was a bit of a side path. But I wanted to tell you about this because I want you to understand why site structure is so very important. So what you need to remember from all of this is that Google follows links. And this means it follows all your internal links to crawl through your website. And if a certain page on your website gets lots and lots of links, Google will come there very often. And if a page gets little or no links, Google will not come there very often. So the way you structure your website, the way you internally link all your pages to each other is really important. Pages with a lot of links will be very important, while pages with very few links will not be very important in the eyes of Google. So following all of these links gives Google really important clues about the relationship between various pages. So think of the structure of your website as a guide for Google, and therefore really important. So in my opinion, people should be doing 3 things with site structure. And the first thing is thinking about it, and then incorporate it, and then maintaining it. So let's start with some thinking. Remember Alice. How could she make people aware of what her most important stories are? I think she should put her stories that are most important to her on top of each pile. If she was to organize them and categorize them, then it's easier to read through all of them. But if she wants to make sure that people read her most important stories, then she would have to put them on top of her pile. And that's what you should be thinking of as well. When you want to organize your website, the first thing you need to do is think about which pages you want to put on top of your pile. Or if you want a Marie Kondo analogy, which pages spark the most joy? Or what are the pages that you want to rank with? Which pages should your audience find and read? And think about what you want them to do after they hit that page. What is that? What do you want them to do? And if you're going to ask yourself these questions, you'll probably end up at the very basics of marketing. You end up with questions on what's your mission? What is it that you want to sell? Or what idea do you want to get out there? What is it that makes your website or your business so very special? Why did you develop or create this website in the first place? These are crucial questions, and they're really, really hard, but they're also very important. So the mission of a company could be to sell the most colorful socks, or to be the best physical therapist in New York. It could also be to offer the best family and eco-friendly camping trips to the south of France. Mission at Yoast is SEO for everyone. So, but if you want to think about which pages are most important to you, then you have to think about what is important to my website, to my company. And if you get there, you'll probably remember why you started your website in the first place. What do you want your visitors to find on your website? What pages do you want to rank with? And once you have that mission or reconnected to that mission, because you've always known that mission, it's just sometimes while you're busy doing other things, you just get lost or you're not connected to what you're actually doing. But then it will be rather easy to choose those pages that spark the most joy, the pages you want to rank with. I often ask people, if you can show me like 4 pages on your website, which one would you like to show me? Which ones are the most important? We often call these pages, the ones that spark joy, cornerstone articles. Cornerstone content. SEOs often call them cornerstone articles. And whenever SEOs talk about cornerstone articles, they usually talk about informative, very lengthy articles, because these do well in Google. But they could also be commercial pages. They could be product pages, important sales pages. It could be amusing pages. Because if you're selling a product, you want people to find that product. You should remember that all of these pages that you want to put on top of your pile, that you want to rank with, should be landing pages, pages that people are entering your website in. So that should be, they should navigate and have enough context for your visitor to understand them. But every page could be a page that is good enough to put on top of your pile. It could be anything. Think about that and make some decisions. That's the first step. Make conscious decisions about what pages you want to put on top of your pile. And once you have those, once you have like 4 or 5 pages you really want to rank with, then you can make sure to incorporate your site structure. And how do you do that? How do you make sure that the pages you want to put on top of your pile are incorporated in such a way that they actually turn up highest in the search engine? How do you show Google which pages are most important? How do you incorporate hierarchy in your site structure? Well, that's something you do with your internal linking structure. So let me explain that a little bit. We already went over this. Pages that have a lot of links pointing towards them will appear important to Google, while pages that do not have a lot of links will become less important in the eyes of Google. Your most important pages thus should have the most internal links pointing towards them. So in our plugin, we have like this little thingy. It's in the page in your post overview, and it counts the number of links in the post going towards other posts, but also the number of links that that post is receiving. And that's an important first thing to look at. If these are my most important articles, check whether or not they also have the most links pointing towards them. That's a great way to start. And if they do not have the most internal links pointing towards them, you should do something about that. And now I hear you all thinking, I can't see you, but I still hear you. Does this just mean that I should just add a bunch of internal links to all of these pages that matter the most to me, and that's it? That kind of feels like a trick. And if it feels like a trick, then it usually is a trick. And if it's a trick, then it usually doesn't work out. Because although SEOs want to make SEO full of tricks, it's usually a much more harder thing. And you're right. It doesn't work like that. It only works if you link contextual. And this means that your links should make sense, because Google is getting smart. And in English, for sure, it's able to read and understand your text. So if you're just adding random internal links to your website, this won't work. The link should be actually useful to your audience. That means that if you're writing a post about ballet shoes, I often write a post about ballet shoes, you should link from that post to another post which is about like something connected to ballet shoes. So you should link to a post about ballet lessons or hip hop shoes, for example. But linking from a post about ballet shoes to a post about SEO link building does not work. Google will think this is crazy. So you should make sure that your internal linking are contextual. So let's look at an example on how to really incorporate this. So imagine you want to rank for site structure. If that's your most important term or the article you want to rank with, you'll probably have more articles about that subject. If you do not, then I would advise you to write more articles about subjects that really matter to you. You'll need a lot of different articles, each focusing on a different aspect of the thing you want to be found for. So for site structure, you could write an article about the importance of site structure, or internal linking strategies, or site structure best practices. So all of these articles are like little niche articles. They are all about site structure, but they all have a little niche to it. And you know what the most important thing is? It's really hard to rank for that competitive term, the site structure. And probably the pages and the posts you've thought of that are most important to you also have the most competition. They're hard to rank for. So if I want to rank for site structure, that's a competitive term. But other terms like the importance of site structure or internal linking strategies, these terms are far less competitive and easier to rank for. So all of these little articles, we also call them long tail articles, focusing on search terms that have a much smaller audience, but also have a higher chance to actually compete in the search engines, result pages. These all will get a little bit of traffic. So all in all, you get a little bit of traffic to your website with all of these articles combined. But they also can help with the ranking of your big article. Because if you put an internal link from all of these little ones, all of these long tail articles, towards that most important one, you'll be telling Google, oh, but this is the really important article about site structure. So these are all about site structure, contextual linking, but they're all pointing towards the one that's most important. And that will help with the ranking for your main article. So such a structure in which the long tail articles link to that most important one is a cornerstone approach. And this will lead to a ranking of your most important article. So what you should remember is that you should make sure to link from all of these little articles to the most important ones. Link from the tail, that's from the long tail keywords, link from the tail, the less important articles, to your most important landing pages, to the head. And that's how you should incorporate. Make sure you have a really good internal linking strategy in which the most important articles get the most internal links. And then there's only one thing left to do. And that's to maintain your site structure. And this sounds boring, but it's not. Because while you're busy doing other things, your website will grow. You'll add content, and that's a really good thing because Google really likes that you add content. But you should take care of it. 5 years ago, I moved houses, and I went from a rather small house to a slightly bigger house, and I got all of these new closets, and I thought I would never have enough clothes to fill those closets. Well, guess again. 5 years later, everything is like cluttered, and I can't find anything anymore. And that's what happened to your website as well. If you do not take care of it, you'll end up with clutter. You end up with a mess. You need to stay on top and maintain both your site structure and your closets. You should protect your site structure. But, and this is what I get from a lot of people, and they say, I only write really high quality content. I never write anything that's even remotely crappy. And I do understand that, because I never buy clothes that aren't beautiful. I only buy beautiful clothes, but I still have too much clothes. So is there such a thing as too much high quality content? Can you write too many of a good thing? Well, yes, there is. And there's a very good reason why. There are only a limited number of places in Google's search result pages. So Google will show 1, 2 results from the same domain in the search results page for any specific query. So maybe if you're a high authority domain, you might get away with 3. But if you're writing 5 blog posts all aiming at the same keyword, Google will not allow it. It will only show 2. And Google will be confused because it will have found 5. And Google doesn't know which one to show to the audience. And then if Google gets confused, it's never good for your rankings. And you'll be actually competing with yourself for a place in the rankings. And it's hard enough to compete with other people. You should never try to compete with yourself. You're not going to win that. So keyword cannibalization is becoming a thing. You cannot blog endlessly about similar things and leave it be. You need to do some content management. And even if you're optimizing your articles for different terms, but they're still similar, you might suffer from keyword cannibalization. If you're writing a lot about the same topics, you probably have been trying to do in having some keyword cannibalization, and that will result in lower ranking because you're confusing Google. So I noticed that I wrote 2 blog posts about readability and whether or not it's a ranking factor. And I wrote them like a year apart from each other. And the first blog post I optimized for does readability rank, while the second post is optimized for the focus keyword readability ranking factor. Yeah, I should have rung a bell back then. But these posts are actually not exactly about the same thing. Very different angle, at least in my idea. But for Google, really hard to figure out which of these articles is most important. And as a result, you'll end up ranking low with both articles. So you can be cannibalizing without knowing it. That's possible. I didn't know that I was eating myself, and I still was. So in checking whether or not your website suffers from keyword cannibalization is rather easy. So you should search your site for any specific keyword you suspect might have multiple results. So in my case, I'll Google sites.yoast.com readability ranks. And the first 2 results are the articles I suspected to suffer from cannibalization. I was right. So Googling site:/domain.com and then your keyword will give you an easy answer to the question whether or not you're suffering from keyword cannibalization. And I would do that. Terms you think maybe I'm not ranking as well, so I think I should be doing, just check what does Google have for that specific query on your website. And if there are too many, then Google doesn't know which one to choose. So detecting is easy, but solving is not that hard either. So how do you solve it? Well, you can solve it with your internal linking strategy. You can make sure that Google does not get confused. If one of the articles you're ranking with is much more important than the other one, treat it as such. Make sure that there are enough internal links from other articles pointing towards that most important one. Place that most important page higher in your hierarchy on your website. Link from all these less important pages to your most important page. And that way you'll be telling Google which articles you want to rank highest with, and you can keep both articles on your website. And I think this is the favorite strategy of most authors, because it seems like people who write posts don't want to throw away anything ever. It's like me and having so many dresses. I don't want to throw anything away either, but you still have to. Because a lot of the times, these articles that face keyword cannibalization are of equal importance. So what should you do then? And I think you should combine those articles. So in my case, the two readability articles, I combined these because it just didn't make any sense to have two of them. It made sense when I wrote them because I was trying to tell people about some new thing Google had done. But after like a half a year, it didn't make any sense anymore. So I made two awesome articles and made one really awesome article out of it. And that makes much more sense for the user as well. So, and what you should not forget, then you can throw away one of these articles, but never throw away an article without redirecting it to the new one. Because if you're cleaning up and throwing away old stuff, always make sure to redirect that URL, because that article will probably have an external link somewhere. And Google, as we know, follows links and will come to that article, but then it's not there anymore. And if Google finds like a dead link, a 404 is that what we call it, it gets so mad. Yeah, Google hates that. So you should tell Google, oh, well, that link doesn't exist anymore, but you should go here. And then Google is really happy again. So make sure to redirect everything you ever delete. But I think combining articles, that's the thing we should be doing. We all have written so many things, and you should look at what you've all been writing and take the good part out of it and just remove all the crappy parts. Yeah. And maintaining site structure also means that your website will change because your company or your website will change. Your mission will change. Like 5 years ago, I think, I don't know if it's 5 years ago, we had an SEO plugin, but we also had a Google Analytics plugin. So our website was totally different back then because we had two things to maintain. And your website should reflect your business. So that means that you should evaluate your mission and check, are we still on the same page? Are we still thinking the same things about this? Yeah, and just make sure that your mission is reflected in the structure of your website. So maintaining site structure, and it's very sad, but this really never ends. Site structure and the maintaining part, the keyword cannibalization part, should be part of a process. I've seen it in our own company. We have a very large blog, and we started with a blog team with only 2 writers, and we have a full team now, and they're facing a lot of rewriting and making things up to date. And we're not pushing new content as much as we used to do because we have so much already, and a lot of it is evergreen. So of course there are new things because Google changes and we have to bring that out, but a lot of things just remain the same. So you have to do a lot of content managing and making sure that that everything you have is structured in a good way. Because otherwise, your site will just grow and you're not in control anymore about what the things are you want to rank with. And Google will have a really hard time just crawling through your website if you don't maintain it. And I think, so it's not like it's boring, but it can be a grand thing, and it's not that technical. So maybe for a lot of people, site structure is boring, but it's also very, very actionable, because with your site structure, you can influence which article will rank highest. So it's important, but it's also something you can control. And that's something I really enjoy about it, because I like to control things. So you can start controlling and improving your site structure like today, like just after you've finished doing the whole day and watching all these great talks. You can start improving your website. You can start thinking about it and checking whether or not these articles have enough links pointing towards them. So I think that's what I like most about site structure. So we've come to the end of my talk. Thank you so much for your attention. And well, maybe there are any questions.
Let me just unmute my microphone. Firstly, can I just say, you're really good at this.
Thank you.
Really good at doing public speaking with,
No audio.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just totally staring at a screen and going, oh, it was great. And that actually, that was something that came out throughout the comments. Just lots and lots of really complimentary things being said about your presentation. There was just one thing I wanted to clarify, if it's okay. And it's nothing to do with the talk you just did. It's the URL for the part that you mentioned at the beginning. You know, the diversity fund.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the slide showed it correctly. Is it yoast.com/community?
I don't know.
I think it is. Let's say it is.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure it is. And if not, we'll definitely clear that up. But I'm pretty sure it was. But anyway, so there was a few people.
If you'll just Google it,
yeah,
we're good enough in our SEO.
You're quite good at doing the whole Google thing. Yeah, but it said things like, I always love Marieke's talk. She has such a great way of explaining things. Oh no, the comments are jumping around. She was one of the first speakers I ever saw at a WordCamp. I was so grateful. I didn't feel like a fraud, and I felt as part of the audience. That's really nice. But here is an actual question, and it's from a bright clear web, and it says, if I've written about a plugin that is now obsolete, now, is it better to leave the article online with the disclaimer saying so, or to redirect to a similar post?
I would check whether or not people are still searching for it. Because if people are searching for that plugin, then the information that it's now obsolete is still useful. So if you still are attracting a lot of search traffic for it, then I would leave it be. But if it's only getting traffic from other links, so from external parties, I think you could maybe delete it. Yeah, okay. Always redirected, of course, but maybe the fact that it's no longer there is important information for people. So I would check the search volume before I would make that decision.
Okay, a few questions that came up in my mind, if that's all right. One of the things that always mystifies me is, because Google is such a mysterious entity, and it really keeps its secrets to itself for good competitive reasons. I was kind of wondering, how on earth do you know what it is that needs to be done? How do you keep ahead of everybody? How do you know what features to include in the plugin, what the roadmap should look like, if they're always likely to just pull the wool from, the rug from under your feet?
Well, we have close contacts, so we make friends with Google, but that doesn't help. Well, it does help, and they're really nice people, so it does help. But sometimes they just surprise us as well. So then they take off an API and we're screwed. So we have the same thing that other people have, but we have a good contact. So we know when now we don't know anything about the algorithm though. We have good contacts with the WordPress Google people, but if they make a change in the algorithm, it's just trial and error, I guess. And we have some really good SEOs who just are, so Jono and Yoast are just speaking with this really big community of all these SEO people, and that's how we stay on top. Yeah, but it's a lot of trial and error as well. We have some sides of people that we can abuse, and then see what.
Do you have like earthquake moments as a company where you literally walk into the office and Google did something? And it's like, right, everybody, stop what you're doing. We're on this for 2 weeks because there's a crisis.
Yes, we have that. Yeah, we have a roadmap, and then Google just will roll out an update, and then the roadmap will just go, and then we have to do something else.
Yeah,
and we have that with WordPress as well. If we're going to do Gutenberg, then it was like, then we're going to do this one.
We
have to get.
Sorry, I was talking over you there. Could I ask another couple of questions? We've got about three or four more minutes, if that's all right. You were talking about like this kind of consistent. Well, you describe it as cluttered or uncluttered. Let's take it that way. I was wondering if, and this may be a question that you can't specifically answer, but is a cluttered, like a messy but very frequent approach to SEO better than a small amount of really structured SEO? So in other words, if I just did a tiny little bit, but it was really, really carefully thought through, or like I think probably most of us, you just do quite a lot of kind of ill and poor thought through stuff. Is there a benefit of one over the other?
Well, writing a lot of content is always a good thing. So so that's a good thing. And I think, so if you just take the approach of having the visitor in mind, then Google will reward that in the end. So it should be a strategy, of course, and especially if you're a website. So this one with the site structure, that should be a strategy, because websites are getting too big, and that's hard for the user and Google. But if you have your visitor in mind, it will always be the right thing. And if your visitor likes these nice, not well thought of articles, you're always doing the right thing. And Google, because that's, in the end, Google wants to serve his audience the best result as well. So with that, you can't do anything wrong.
Totally off-piste. What's going to happen in the future, do you think, with things like voice search and the ability to talk to Google, and you only get one result at a time? Google simply doesn't give you, well, here's a list of 28 results that you can browse through at your own convenience. Everything on the first. Yeah.
So I've been talking a lot with that, because my husband, Yoast, is he's a big fan of everything new. So we have a Google Home at our home, and our children are closing and opening our curtains with the Google Voice thing.
Oh wow! Okay.
Just to be sure, for Dutch people, this isn't the real thing yet, because it only understands English, and my English it doesn't understand. My son's English it does understand though. So in Dutch it's really poor. And you're right, it gives singular results. So if this becomes a thing, then only the top one result will be important.
Wow.
And that will have large consequences for the readability of a text, because Google has to read it out loud. It's really hard. So I don't believe in voice as a single thing. I do believe in voice with a screen. And people want to make choices. You're never going to click at the first result. You just check out the first 10 and then choose. And of course, the first results get the most clicks, but still, you have an opinion as well as a human being. So I think people will want to choose. But my husband doesn't always agree with me in this one. So
do you know, I have so many questions about the future, especially regarding SEO, and that was just one of them. I really wish we had way more time. I think I've got time for one more. Can I squeeze one more question in?
Squeeze one more in.
One more. Yeah. Okay, so we've got Yoast, and we've all heard of it, and fabulous plugin for promoting your site's SEO. Are there any other complementary off WordPress tools that you recommend that people go and investigate as well, that have got nothing to do with WordPress or plugins, but you feel that's good value for money, or it's good, that helps?
So most of these, so there are a lot. You have the Moz and this SEMrush and a Screaming Frog and all these things, and most of them have like a free thing, but they're pretty expensive if you want more. So I would think you need a good setup in your analytics. Make sure that you know what traffic is coming to your site, and do some UTM tagging. Make sure that you know what they're coming from. That will help you a lot. And then if you have enough money, then like an SEMrush account is wonderful, but that's not. We don't even have that, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very costly. Yeah,
no, it's very costly. So it's very different price settings if you go out of the WordPress system.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Marieke, for not only telling us about the Diversity Fund, which seems like incredibly valuable, important work, and hopefully that'll have an impact going forwards, but also for talking to us about SEO. Really, really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely fantastic tool. Thank you so much. I just want to echo Nathan's words there. So thank you. Okay, we are going to have to wrap up this session and go into our next. So let me just move a few bits. The next session, really excited to be jumping into. But before we do that, there was just a couple of things. If you are on WP&UP.org/live, just below the video, just below us here, there's a little donate button. Every penny that is donated throughout this event is going to be distributed across all of the various non-profits that are represented here. So it is Giving Tuesday today. So if you have an opportunity, please do. If you are able to, please do support the various non-profits that are here. One other thing that I quickly wanted to mention, some of you may have noticed the
Mr. Robot hat.
Mr. Robot hat. Yes, no, it's actually
It's not.
a Matt Report hat. So the Matt Report is a business-focused WordPress podcast. If you head over to store.mattreport.com, you can get yourself one of these hats, and Matt Medeiros has very, very generously offered to donate 100% of the profits from all the sales through the rest of 2019 to WP&UP. So thank you very much for that, Matt.
Can I just say, Dan, that I think orange buttons are the best buttons on the internet. I think that particularly if they say the word, donate on them. I encourage everybody to go and explore any orange button on the internet that says donate. Really make use of those buttons. They're tremendously good buttons to press. I think you'll feel very, very pleased with yourself if you press that. So we've got Tess. I won't share my screen, but in about 3 minutes time, we will have Tess Coughlin-Allen representing Do Action, and she's going to be talking about resetting your professional moral compass. One little hiccup that you may experience is that if the video just simply doesn't play, if we finish this one and the next one doesn't begin, which I believe it doesn't, if you just click refresh at 3 or 4 minutes from now, you'll be booted in and you can click the play button and begin again. I'm going to take a bit of time off to go and get my kids from school, so I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Dan and Barbara, and I'll see you a bit later in the evening.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, Nathan, thank you so much for your time so far. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah, see you soon.
As Nathan mentioned, do stick around if you're on WP&UP.org/live. Give the browser a refresh in about 2 or 3 minutes time, and we'll be back. See you shortly.
See you soon.